أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله فاطر السماوات والأرض جاعل الملائكة رسلا أولي أجنحة مثنى وثلاث ورباع يزيد في الخلق ما يشاء إن الله على كل شيء قدير. ما يفتح الله للناس من رحمة فلا ممسك لها وما يمسك فلا مرسل له من بعده وهو العزيز الحكيم. يا أيها الناس اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم هل من خالق غير الله يرزقكم من السماء والأرض لا إله إلا هو فأنى تؤفكون. وإن يكذبوك فقد كذبت رسل من قبلك وإلى الله ترجع الأمور. يا أيها الناس إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. إن الشيطان لكم عدو فاتخذوه عدوا إنما يدعو حزبه ليكونوا من أصحاب السعير. الذين كفروا لهم عذاب شديد والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات إن الله عليم بما يصنعون والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور من كان يريد العزة فلله العزة جميعا إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه والذين يمكرون السيئات لهم عذاب شديد ومكر أولئك هو يبور والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا بعلمه وما يعمر من معمر ولا ينقص من عمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا وتستخرجون حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك والذين تدعون من دونه ما يملكون من قطمير إن تدعوهم لا يسمعوا دعاءكم ولو سمعوا ما استجابوا لكم ويوم القيامة يكفرون بشرككم ولا ينبئك مثل خبير. يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد. إن يشأ يذهبكم ويأت بخلق جديد وما ذلك على الله بعزيز. ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وإن تدع مثقلة إلى حملها لا يحمل منه شيء ولو كان ذا قربى إنما تنذر الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب وأقاموا الصلاة ومن تزكى فإنما يتزكى لنفسه وإلى الله المصير. صدق الله مولانا العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله الصادق الأمين محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين الشاكرين العاملين التائبين وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين.
Assalamu alaikum, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Today's program sponsors are Dr. and Mrs. Muhammad Muntazir and Dr. and Mrs. Afzal Haider. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for their families. Bismillah. 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 Salawat. I know the days are getting longer and our nights are getting shorter. So I had announced earlier that we'll have, for the Majalis, the program will be after Maghrib. That was my mistake. I misunderstood that. So because we haven't had Ramadan session for 2 years. So, so it's difficult. So it'll be before Maghrib, inshallah. Now, tomorrow, Milad will start at 7 p.m. to celebrate the birth of Imam Hassan, inshallah. So we're going to start tomorrow at 7 p.m. to celebrate the birth of Imam Hassan, and we'll start with the poetry in Urdu poetry, and then your speech will be 7:20. Inshallah, you'll take the member. Also, the Majalis will also start earlier before Maghrib. Next Saturday, inshallah, the Majlis will start at 6:30 p.m. So, because the Tabut will be taken out, so we'll have the Majlis at 6:30 p.m. But before I give this to them, please, one of the important members of our community, a very respected lady, she's going through some surgery at Cooper Hospital. So please recite 5 times Amma Yujib for her health, and remember her in your du'as every night, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَا وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَّا تَذَكَّرُونَ. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. جزاكم الله. جزاكم الله. Thank you. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, tonight we'll conclude our reading of the Dua 44 from As-Sahifat As-Sajjadiyah. We arrived at this point that Imam was asking Allah to purify his possessions, his wealth. And this clause, وَأَن نُطَهِّرَهَا بِإِخْرَاجِ الزَّكَوَاتِ, Oh Allah, allow me to purify my wealth after anyone who has a claim to the possessions that I have, I've paid those back. Help me purify the actual earnings that I have through the payment of the zakat. And as we said in the Quran, Allah tells us in Surah Al-Ma'arij, for the people who establish their prayer, right? For the people who establish their prayer and are trying to move past a state of being that makes them withholding in good times and makes them very anxious in difficult times, for them there is a designated portion of their earnings that belongs not to them but belongs to at least two groups of people. Quran says, لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. So of the earnings that they have, فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. So these two people, in their wealth, there's a portion that is identified, and it is a right that belongs to these group of people. The one who asks and the one who is deprived. And we said last night, and I just wanted to mention a riwayah here that drives this point further home, is that the payment of the zakat, though of course it is a good thing, and it is one of the requirements of a Muslim, it is not seen as anything worthy of praise beyond the obligations that we have. So as much as we praise a person for performing the salat, to the same extent we praise for their paying of zakat. It should not be seen as something extraordinary, above and beyond. It is the basics that every Muslim is responsible towards. This is a riwayah that Abu Wasir narrates from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil fajr. Says, كنا عند أبي عبد الله عليه السلام ومعنا بعض أصحاب الأموال. Says, we were in the presence of the Imam, and in our group were أصحاب الأموال, wealthy people. فذكروا الزكاة. The discussion of zakat came up. فقال أبو عبد الله عليه الصلاة والسلام إن الزكاة ليس يحمد بها صاحبها. Generally, you have wealthy people around, especially if you're, fundraising for a certain activity. You're trying to win them over somehow, right? Elevator pitch something, you're trying to tell them this is a really good cause. So please, if you would be so generous, you would be so kind, you would, all the nice words that you can say to kind of massage the ego of it, please give a little bit to us. So when conversation of zakat came up, Imam said, hold on. All these having plans is good and having a good idea and not to take people's money and then figure out what to, no, none of those things. So when it comes to discussion of zakat, a person who pays the zakat, they are not worthy of some praise. Right? لَيْسَ يُحْمَدُ بِهَا صَاحِبُهَا. You're not praising this person because now they give a zakat. وَإِنَّمَا هُوَ شَيْءٌ ظَاهِرٌ. It's a clear, apparent thing. And when he says an apparent thing, you look to the Quran, it says, أَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. So it's such a fundamental thing that this is my reading of it. However you're going to praise that, you should praise the prayer the same way. إِنَّمَا حَقَنَ بِهَا دَمُهُ. Says this payment of zakat, and this is one of the ahkam that we have, it is what makes the blood of the person, the life of the person, respectable in a Muslim community. See, there's certain kind of like rules in acceptance of Islam and of apostatizing from Islam. But this individual, as a person, is respected, their wealth, all those things are protected through the means of them paying this zakat. وَسُمِّيَ بِهَا مُسْلِمًا. And it is through the payment of the zakat that you call this person a Muslim. See, Imams are always reminding us, be precise in your usage of language. Don't just award each other titles undeservedly. I'm a Muslim, we're all Muslim. I'm a mu'min, we're all mu'min. I'm muttaqi, we're all muttaqi. All these things. Oh, hold on. Iman has a certain conditions. Islam has a certain conditions, and one of them is the payment of zakat. وَلَوْ لَمْ يُؤَدِّهَا, had this person not paid that zakat, لَمْ تُقْبَلَ لَهُ صَلَاتٌ, their prayer would not be accepted, like we mentioned last night. وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ غَيْرَ الزَّكَاةِ, and he says that, and that which is upon you regarding your wealth is other than the zakat. He says, what we're talking about charitable giving, zakat, let's separate that, homes, separate that, then any sadaqat, zakat that you pay beyond that, yes, those are meritorious. Those should be praised. Those should, be encouraged so others will take lesson from it. In another case, the Imam speaks about zakat and they take it into a kind of like a esoteric dimension. I just read the riwayah and I'll move on because I can't speak to this esoteric internal zakat, but it's good for us to just kind of have it on our radar. One of the ashab mufaddal, again in the presence of the same Imam, he says, فَسَأَلَهُ رَجُلٌ فِي كَمْ تَجِبُ الزَّكَاةُ مِنَ الْمَالِ. The man asked the Imam a question like, how much zakat do I have to pay? فَقَالَ لَهُ الزَّكَاةُ الظَّاهِرَةُ أَمِ الْبَاطِنَةُ. Imam, he said, let me clarify your question. Are you asking about the apparent zakat, the exterior zakat, or are you asking about the interior one? فَقَالَ أُرِيدُهُمَا جَمِيعًا. Man said, oh, okay. I want to pay zakat. So if there's two kinds, I guess I have to pay both of them. فَقَالَ أَمَّا الظَّاهِرَةُ فَفِي كُلِّ أَلْفٍ خَمْسَةٌ وَعِشْرُونَ. So he's telling him of the apparent zakat in the case of the person that was asking. He says, of every 1,000, 25. 25 in every 1,000. As for the hidden, وَأَمَّا الْبَاطِنَ فَلَا تَسْتَأْثِرْ عَلَى أَخِيكَ بِمَا هُوَ أَحْوَجُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكَ. Says for the hidden one, and for me not to make this burdensome on you, preferring your brother to the thing that they are more needy than yourself. That is the internal zakat, the esoteric zakat. So we were speaking about kind of like accumulation of wealth yesterday, part of a larger conversation, but still. See, zakat is trying to trim the excesses that we have. And generally it's in comparison to other people. Khums is the same way. After your earnings, you pay all the debts that you have, all the dues that you have, all your living expenses that you have. And by the way, the living expense is based on your own standard of living. If you live in a nice suburb and your property tax is this much and your mortgage is this much, whatever, so long as it's not excessive. All of those payments, you take away your kids' college payment, everything. Whatever remains in excess of that, then you pay a portion of that, 1/5 of it, to the zakat, to the khums. And zakat is the same way. You have large stacks of wealth, and every year you pay a small amount of that. Now, some of these are a little more challenging because we live in a society and social security, all these things, you have to save up so much, so when you come into retirement, you actually have some money to live. These are kind of some of the nuances that has to be worked out in the fiqh, the ijtihad, the contemporary ijtihad. Aside from that, Imam says, if you want to do zakat batina, just look around you. You have enough for yourself? You have enough to live comfortably? You have money set aside? You have vacation, all those things? If you have anything in excess of that, then look around. And like we said, strong relationships amongst each other, your brothers and your sisters. See if a person has a need. Will $1,000 help you move your life along for 3 months, 6 months, whatever? Yeah, it's just sitting here. What am I going to do with it? I have my investments, they're aside. I have my other property. I have my vacation property, all those things. But I still have money that's just sitting there. Here, if it can help you in your life, bismillah. So putting that to use, this is zakat batina. Okay, let's move on. A lot to say here, but not so little time, but in this month of Ramadan, so little time. The rest of these, there's a lot of time, but this month of Ramadan, so little time. Okay, then Imam continues. وَأَن نَتَقَرَّبَ إِلَيْكَ فِيهِ مِنَ الْأَعْمَالِ الزَّاكِيَةِ. Oh Allah, I ask that I seek proximity to you through the means of actions that are purifying. بِمَا تُطَهِّرُنَا بِهِ مِنَ الذُّنُوبِ. Through purifying actions that will purify us from our sins. So every good thing should have some purifying effect, right? Imam is asking specifically for those things that can purify us from the sins. وَتَعْصِمُنَا فِيهِ مِمَّا نَسْتَأْنِفُ مِنَ الْعُيُوبِ. And also those things, Allah help me build those habits that protect me in ways that I don't return to a set of actions that I know are not good for me, that are displeasing to you. Right? So if I'm putting such an effort to make a change in this month, to live better, to act better, Allah help me do those things that will help me create habits that after the month is done, I don't go back to the same kind of life that I had. حتى لا يورد عليك أحد من ملائكتك إلا دون ما نورد من أبواب الطاعة لك وأنواع القربة إليك. So that none of your angels will bring for you the kinds of obedience and sorts of proximity-seeking actions unless they be less than what we bring. So here the Imam is saying, like, help me do those things that will transform maybe the bad to the good and that will protect me from once I've changed the bad to the good for it to remain good. Again, in the Quran, Allah tells us a few times, there are things that we can do that will transform our misdeeds into good deeds. Mu'mineen, one of their characteristics are, they're trying, right? We said in some of the nights before, ayahs of the Quran says, Mu'min is a person when they make a mistake, this is what they do. They remember Allah. They do tawbah. So a person who engages in actions that are not good for them, that person should kind of prepare themselves for a response that is appropriate. إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. A person did something wrong. We all do something. I shouldn't speak on your behalf, but I think majority of us have things that we still are working on. You make a mistake, a person should still feel the hope of God when they man taba, just have some level of repentance. Now, there's a basic level, there's a more advanced level. Basic level, astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh, astaghfirullah wa asalu tawbah. Advanced level, Imam Ali tells us, like, he did something that wronged someone, we have to go get it, you have to set things straight. You hurt someone's feelings, go make sure they feel okay now. You took someone from something else, return it to them. You built mass, kind of nourishing yourself with things you weren't supposed to, burn it off. That's what we should all be striving towards. But at the very least, there's some level of tawbah. وَآمَنَ. Have that conviction, have that belief. Be convicted that I made a mistake, but still, it doesn't make any of these truths wrong. Sometimes when we get in a state of doing these wrong things and we're pulled and pulled and pulled, then our mind, shaitanic influences, starts saying, I'm already in a pretty bad state, right? And then at the same, how do I know these things? How do I know Allah is this? How do I know this is that? How do I know Prophet said? All of a sudden we start making all these excuses. Before we know it, nothing Quranic, Islamic, Hadith, religious even appeals to us. Just completely dismiss it. وَعَمِلَ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. Now, you want to counteract the mistake that we made? Start doing good things. Do good things. فَأُولَٰئِكَ يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. Those people will transform their misdeeds into good ones. Allah will do that. He can do whatever He wants. Right? So this is the formula that Allah is giving us. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Indeed, Allah is merciful and all-forgiving. So in addition to that, we should be working towards transforming our sayyat into hasanat. We need it. We should also be careful not to transform the hasanat into sayyat. Sometimes we destroy the good that we do. Whether a little bit or a lot, we destroy it. Example, Quran says, I didn't want to say that. Well, let's go with them. I don't know if it's a simple, all of them are difficult examples. Ghaybat is one of them, of course. Quran in one example says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal adha. See, you're going to give a sadaqah now. You've taken away from that intense attachment that you have to the money. My money! You gave it, Allah. MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah, Subhanallah, whatever. La tubtilu sadaqatikum. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin the good thing that you did. In this example, bil manni wal adha. Through your reproaches and affronts. I give this wealth. Why didn't anyone mention my name in the program? Why didn't anyone send me a letter from the masjid thanking me? Why didn't the letter, this office of my marja give me like some gold stamp, gold signed letter? Why? How do all these things? Why didn't they name the wing of this, name them a center? Whatever, I don't know what it is. Whatever the man and ada is, or you gave some wealth to some person. Person, I'm in need of a loan. Okay? Need of a loan, you give him $500, I don't know how much, $5,000, okay? And then you see the person next time, he's driving a okay car. I'm not going to say a really nice car. You go buy a Ferrari, $5,000, come on. But he buys a mid-class car, but maybe it has some of those, leather interior or something. Hey, what's going on, buddy? I give you money so you get leather interior? The cloth works just as fine. Oh, leave him alone. If he wants leather interior, let him just have the leather interior. Gave him a $500 loan, he bought like a TV. Super Bowl Sunday, he went and bought a nice TV. Either watch Super Bowl or something else. QLED, OLED? 70 inches? Yeah. TCL, $350. You could have paid some of my money back. You're doing something good. Don't go and harass the person. Now, if the person is a swindler, then sure, you should try to, recuperate whatever funds you gave, whatever losses, and then you'll learn. That's a life lesson. But if you don't know that, there's a basic level of trust. Don't go and pry in the person's life trying to figure out. I saw your son and daughter, like they went and had lunch at a really fancy restaurant. That's the money I gave you? This is what your kids are doing with it? No. But don't ruin the good things that you're doing with these types of actions. Again, it doesn't mean like be ignorant and be blind and no, but at the same time. Another way is, he mentions ghaybat. See? One of the things that ulama tell us, Quran tells us, Islam tells us, there are ways that you can destroy the good that you do. One of the main culprits is the tongue. It's an interesting rawaya. I read the first time, I was so shocked because just the way, the imagery is really interesting. It says, in the morning, every day when the faculties awaken, metaphorical, they kind of like ask each other how everyone's doing. Eyes, how are you doing? Ears, how are you doing? Stomach, all these things. So the tongue asks, how's everyone doing? And all of them bemoan and say, we're all okay. Just if you leave us alone, we'll all be okay. If you don't make trouble, we'll all be okay. Speech is a divine gift, right? Ar-Rahman, allama al-Quran, khalaqa al-insan, allamahu al-bayan. We taught you how to speak. Now with the speak, you can say good things always. And I remember my father used to tell me, if you have something good to say, say it. If you don't have anything good to say, be quiet. He's still telling me until this today. Allamahu al-bayan. Allah is saying, I taught you how to speak. Controlling the tongue is a great way to preserve those profits and the good work that we do. We squander it by saying something. So, hadith attributed to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, he's admonishing Abu Dhar. He says, Ya Abu Dhar, وَهَلْ يَكُبُّ النَّاسَ عَلَى مَنَاخِرِهِمْ فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا حَصَائِدُ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. Abu Dhar, let me tell you, what brings most people in a direction of ending up in the hellfire with their noses in it. That means like they're falling face first. In the hellfire is the tongue. Is what their tongues say. إِنَّكَ لَا تَزَالُ صَالِمًا مَا سَكَتَّ فَإِذَا تَكَلَّمْتَ كُتِبَ لَكَ أَوْ عَلَيْكَ. He says, Abu Dhar, so long as you're quiet, you're safe. As long as you stay quiet, you're safe. Whenever you say something, whenever you open your mouth to say something, that's going to be recorded. Either it's going to be something good that you said that's recorded in your favor, or it's something not great that you said is going to be written against you. So we're talking about building relations, building brotherhood, building sisterhood, strengthening nuraja, manhajarana, all of these things. Tongue can be a powerful asset to do that. But it also can be it can be a great liability, especially if we don't have that control. And we can attract more people towards ourselves and towards this communion, towards this brotherhood, this sisterhood, the master, whatever, through a sweet tongue. You say you can attract with honey, right? More so than you can with. You attract with honey more so than you can with vinegar. Someone said, thank you. So attract people with honey, with your good akhlaq. Quran again addresses the Prophet. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. So it was through God's mercy that you're gentle with these people. See, it's not just the Prophet had a lot of enemies. The people bothered the Prophet a lot. And it's not because the Prophet was a certain way that they just wanted to bother him. Whenever someone wants to come and change the people for the good, it's a very difficult thing to do. If any of you have worked in roles that it's like people facing, okay? People are hard to deal with. People are weird, man. Just sometimes you wish, what if the robots just came and we just lived comfortably. We just didn't have to deal with these people. People are difficult to deal with. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. See, if sometimes you responded the way that you thought the people deserved to be responded to, then they would have dispersed from around you. We made you with a thick skin, with an incredible patience, with an incredible attractiveness, so that people stayed around you. They listened to what you had to say, even though it beat you up, even though it destroyed you. Quran speaks about the Prophet. The strength that he had, the strength of character that he had, was tested time and time and time again. He wasn't an angel, he was a person. Right? So attract with honey. I'll give you a few examples of using the tongue in ways that can be attractive, soft. Quran says, وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا. Right? Speak. It doesn't say like, speak gently. Everyone speak like this. No, it's not necessarily how, it's the tone of speech that you have with people. Are they receiving it in a way that you care about them? Or are you speaking to them in a way that like establishes your control and your authority? Sit down. And you work in the hospital, you're a nurse, you're a doctor, whatever, the patient's not listening. After a while, please, sir, please, sit down, be quiet. I'll strap you down. All right, get the straps, قولوا قولا لينا. Okay? لعله يتذكر ويخشى. Maybe they won't become, they won't soften up, and you need some restraints. That's fine, but at least on your end, start like that. Attract with honey, and see people in a good light. One of the he's a scholar, one of the orators in Qom, Dr. Rafi'i, Nasser Rafi'i. He narrates funny stories. He says that there was a man driving on the highway in Iran. I'm presuming it's Iran. There's a man driving on the highway in Iran. And if you've ever driven on the highway in Iran or been in a car in Iran, you'll know that there's some peculiarities that Iranian drivers have. Anyway, you're driving on the highway, speed limit, no speed limit, whatever. It's very risky. So the man's driving and he sees that it's an open highway, okay? But there's a car that's crashed. And he can't see any other car. So he's just thinking to himself, how did it happen? So he says he's thinking to himself as he's driving, there's only a few possibilities of why this person would have crashed. He said, number one, the person fell asleep. He fell asleep behind the wheel. He said, or the person is an incompetent driver. He doesn't know how to drive. If you Iranian people, they're criticism. Where did you learn how to drive all this? I don't know if it's the same in Pakistan, wherever you're from in the world. We drive a specific way. If there's 1 inch to pass, we pass. The car will pass. Right? So, where did you learn how to drive? He's probably an incompetent driver. He can't even drive on the highway. No cars around him. Or maybe he's intoxicated or something. What other reason is there? He's asleep, or he's intoxicated, or he doesn't know how to drive. So he said this driver, as he was thinking these things with himself, pass the time, whatever, all of a sudden he gets distracted. Something's on the road. He also tries to maneuver around it, loses control, and he crashes. So after all things settled down, then he started thinking with himself again. So it's possible for someone to crash in an open highway with no cars around, and they're not incompetent, and they're not asleep, and they're not intoxicated. See, sometimes we try to think of reasons why a person does such and such or is in a position of such and oh, if he has these problems, there's probably something wrong with him. You're just leaving alone. Having some problems in the house. It's probably because he's angry. I've seen him. The way he says salawat is so forceful that when he gets angry, he probably translates that energy of force into something else. Oh, what are you talking about? Maybe he just has a love for salawat. What does that have to do with his behavior in the house? Or no, I've seen him. When we go out, he eats the double kebab. He doesn't eat single kebab. He eats double kebab. That's why his finances are not in order. He's probably maybe it was just that day he had a crazy urge to eat kebab and he got too much. He got, double patty. Just that, it was a mistake. It was a single instance. So for us to read no, I know the problem. These are the ways that we either don't go to the aid of one another, or we end up, again, this ghaiba that we said, we end up kind of adding fuel to the fire. We make things worse through the gossips that we spread. I know what happened because I am privy to such a small percentage of what actually happened, but I know. Oh. And again, having that humility. Maybe this person, maybe something happened. Maybe a deer jumped in front of their car on the highway and they crashed. It can happen to you, right? So just because the person's in a difficult moment in their life, it doesn't mean that they're incompetent. It doesn't mean that they're falling asleep. It doesn't mean that they're entitled. It may not mean any of those things. Again, another example he gives. See, now we have to give examples of religious figures too, because like I said, in some of the Muslim majority countries, you have local masjids and people come, they frequent the masjid, especially those who are maybe elderly. It's a good part of their daily routine. So I don't know if you've seen, I haven't seen here, but in Iran and other places, there's some of these turbas that are called turba amin. Turba amin is a turba that you have that has a little counter on the top, right? When you do sajda on it, it tells you on the first rak'ah, first sajda, second rak'ah, first. There's springs in it, right? The more you do sajda, it'll tell you where you are. In case you can't remember, then it's an easy assistant. Now there's all this ahkam of if you have a doubt in your prayer, you can't remember, did I pray 1 rak'ah or 3 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah or 6 rak'ah or 8 rak'ah, or I don't know who's praying 8 rak'ah and they have a doubt about it. Well, no. Story Ameen is there just to help someone that needs help. Not a big deal. Although in this case, if I'm not mistaken, Rafi, again, he's giving this anecdote. This elderly man used to pray in the masjid, very committed, regular, and he had this turba amin. Okay? So one day the pishnamos, the imam, person who stands for the prayer, he came and he's addressing the congregation. And he's speaking, they speak, generally in Iran at least, after the prayer, especially Maghrib Isha, when much of the community is there, they come and they address the community. They say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, some ahkam, some akhlaq. So he's speaking about this ahkam and probably speaking of concentration in prayer, right? He says, why does a person need this turba amin? Right? Someone's going to concentrate in prayer. Why would they need this turba? Tell them what rak'ah they're on. Wawayla. So he said this, and then people are there, they can see this poor old guy, he's just doing his namaz, he has a turba amin in front of him. He has this one that, is recording where he is in his salat. And you can't even pray 2 rakat without assistance of turba amin. You can't even pray 3 rakat without assistance of turba amin. No, whatever. Obviously the man was embarrassed. Okay? Now, whatever we believe in, we call it karma, whatever we want to call it, okay? When we deliver a blow, we will receive a blow too. Allah will make sure. And for those of us, Allah, I'm not saying Allah cares about everyone. Those of us who are a little more serious in Allah delivers the blow as immediately as possible. So we quickly come to our senses. Oh, that was something, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. So Imam said this, okay? Next day comes around, he comes for Maghrib prayers. He makes a mistake in the Maghrib prayers. He doesn't pray 3 rak'ah, he prays 4 rak'ah. I don't know if the old man came and said something to him, but sometimes even things like this, we think we're doing a good thing. Oh, Islam, that's not a right way of doing it. You do it in a way that preserves the integrity, preserves the respect, the public image, that takes into considerations the feelings of your brother and sister, even if what you're saying is something that is good, something that is right. These are ways that even we're well-intentioned, we end up messing up the good deeds that we've done. Again, we know this example from Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Imams played different roles in society, and sometimes, they were giving admonishment, they had certain legal obligations, and they did decisions that were not very popular, sometimes even with their family members. Right? They didn't play favorites. Playing favorites and nepotism, these were normal things, and especially, after the time of the coming into power of the Umayyads, this was especially true. Right? One of the major criticisms they had to the third Khalifa was this: putting people into positions that are not qualified. So, nepotism was rampant. Anyway, one of the relatives of the Imam is upset with him. He comes and he knows how to speak his mind. He comes and he says whatever is on his mind, whatever is in his heart. He just empties himself to the Imam. Okay? Gives the Imam a piece of his mind. Imam doesn't say anything, but ashab generally, in this case, in ashab around, they get upset because ghayrat is there, right? You said what? You what? The sleeves come up and Imam says, you don't need to do that. So everyone witnessed this scene. Then Imam says, okay, I'm going to go respond to him. After a time, he took the time to think about it. And right, on the walk that the Imam was making to this person's house, he's reciting this ayah of Quran. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. People who give in open and in secret, and they suppress their anger, and they're forgiving of the people. وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah loves the good doers. So he's saying this as he's going to train himself, to remind himself, to prepare himself. He's pumping himself up this way. If someone's pumping himself up, remembering all the bad things that a person has done. This person said this about me? Okay, I remember 15 years ago, remember when you did this? Oh, the gloves are coming off. I'm going to say all of this stuff. Imam, the list that he's creating, he's preparing himself by reciting this verse. And he goes to them, and that famous statement, he says, listen, what you said about me, if it's true, Allah forgive me, Allah correct me. If what you said about me was not true, was false, Allah forgive you, Allah correct you. So that's simple. The whole issue was resolved, nipped it in the bud. Although it took some time, the Imam let the man cool off a little bit. Quickly, the man knew, I'm wrong. Sorry, I made a mistake. I lost my cool. I lost my composure. No problem. I forgive you, I forgive you, forgive you. Allah, kiss and make up. No, done. So these are the ways that we can use akhlaq and the tongue to try and strengthen these bonds and not to destroy the good that we've done. Risala salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Time is going and the dua is not finished. Let's just, inshallah, pause here. I promise tomorrow night we'll just read the few lines that remain from the dua. And the dua will speak for itself as it has been speaking for itself, but just for the dua not to remain incomplete, inshallah, we'll do that tomorrow night. If Allah gives us that the blessing of attending, inshallah, and life continues until tomorrow, inshallah. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Thank you very much. Thank you. We still have a couple of minutes. Please just bear with me for 2 more minutes. First of all, please let's recite 5 times Amma Yuji for a respected member of this community, a lady. She is very sick. She is getting a surgery is being done today, I believe. So let's please recite 5 times Amma Yuji for her recovery, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman. Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a wa yakshifu as-su'u. 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 Amma yujibul mustarra iza da'a ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض إلها مع الله قليلا ما تذكرون. Also, please, tomorrow is the Milad for Imam Hassan's birth anniversary, inshallah. So please be here at 7 p.m. We'll start sharp. We'll start with Khasidas. After that, Maulana's speech, and then the Namaz al-Maghrib. And the Ayyam Azhar coming very close. The Majalis will be held before Maghrib. They'll be held before Maghrib. I had earlier said after, but there was a mistake. So please remember that, especially the next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, the majlis will start at 6:30 because the tabut will be taken out. So be here at 6:30, inshallah, for the majlis and all the majalis. And tonight and tomorrow and the day after, 13th, 14th, and 15th, we'll also have a dua mujir, Sheikh, along with the dua iftitah, inshallah. So please be cooperative with us. And remember, one more time, be considerate with the food. Keep moving the lines forward as fast as you can, and do not overfill your plate. Come back for the second. There is enough food here for everybody, inshallah. And please donate generously for the upkeep of these programs at Baitul Khaim. With the loud salawat, let's break for namaz, inshallah. Allahumma salli. Tomorrow, huh? Oh, Surah Fatiha. We read the Fatiha. Once again, please recite a